All right, all right, all right. Shalom. Shalom. Ahab wa baraka. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Waharakakadash, and double honors to the elder apostles, the prophets, and the teachers that have been bringing out this 100% truth for the last 30 plus years. And to the sincere Akyawa Akwath, which is the brothers and sisters that are sincerely learning this truth, salutations. Let's get right into it. We're name of this class, I actually have a name for the class today, and the name of this class is called Proving We're in the Last Hour. So let's see if I can let me get to let's go to the book of Leviticus. Let's start there. Start right at the beginning, Leviticus chapter 19, and we're going to go to verse 29, and it reads, it says, "Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness." So it says, do not prostitute thy daughter. Now, that has two meanings, but we're going to get the real meaning first. Where does the Bible say daughter of Zion? Let's just keep it easy. Let's go to Isaiah. Wait. Let's go to Jeremiah 4, chapter 4. We're going to show you who it's talking about when it talks about your daughter. Okay, so let me get rid of some of this stuff. So we were in Leviticus, and I told you we need to go to Jeremiah chapter 4. So let's get it. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. Where are you at? Chapter 4. And we're gonna go way down, because I just want to get the point so let's read Leviticus really quick one more time, 19 and 29, just so we can go back to the point. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness. So it's saying to be a whore in the Bible means to go away from the laws, the statutes, the direct commands, and the commandments that were given to us by the Most High. So we know in this day and age we've gone so far away from it that some of the laws that are in our culture are actually illegal. That's why we always say you can't keep all the laws at this time. And that's crazy. So you can see how twisted this world is. That's why I say, we're in those last hours. So when it goes into to prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, it's saying to have to let the children of Israel fall away from the laws, and for the land to fall into whoredom. Everybody's pretty much in this day and age would be like Hellenized. Everybody's Hellenized. Everybody has been taught a whole different culture, and so the land becomes full of wickedness. So when you go over to Jeremiah chapter 4, and let's go all the way down to the point 31. I have heard the voices of a woman in travail, and the anguish as of her that bringeth forth her first child. The voice of the daughter of Zion. It's talking about the children of Israel. Now, of course, when you watch the news and when you're watching social media, especially in the Christian church, they've empowered the woman's status and pretty much let her do anything she wants. You have female church pastors in Christianity, but in other religions you don't. You really don't. So you can see that also on a surface message, you can't let our actual daughters fall away from the truth. They've also got to keep their mind in the right place. And I don't want to go too far into it because there's a lot there to be said about that, and it really is destroying the nation, especially when your enemy pays you to be masculine as a woman and then pays your partner to be feminine as a man. So believe me, this spiritual war goes a lot deeper than you think. But it says that the voice of the daughter of Zion that bewaileth herself, that spreadeth her hand, saying, Woe is me now, for my soul is worried because of murders. The point is that we're crying out now, we're the daughter of Zion. So when you go into Leviticus in 29, when it talks about don't prostitute thy daughter, it's talking about the nation of Israel. We have a covenant with Yahweh. Remember that. We are the ones that have the covenant, so we're going to be the ones that suffer the judgments if we don't follow the instructions that we agreed to. Let's move on. Let's go over to the book of Sirach real quick. And for you guys that don't know, Sirach in the Apocrypha is also known as Ecclesiasticus. And we're going to go to chapter 25 and verse, we're going to get we're going to go to 25 and 25. Give the water no passage, neither a wicked woman liberty to gad abroad. Liberty means freedom. So you do not want the wicked daughters of Zion to have, you want to put them in line. So that's when you go back to Leviticus, I think it's 19 and 17. Let's get it real quick. Because when you're, let's see, what does it say? It says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. So when it's talking about neither a wicked woman and a wicked Israelite, don't give a wicked Israelite liberty to gad abroad. Now I'm taking that just a little bit out of context because that actually is talking about women, but when you go deeper into it, we're the bride. Yahushua is the groom, right? The virgin daughter is Israel, that 1/3. So we're going to come back to this truth one way or another. But you just got to understand it does go a little bit deeper. But let's keep going. Let's go to the book of Luke. And go to Luke chapter 11. And let's go down to the point. It's in verse I want to start, I guess, 17. Let's just get it. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against itself, and a house divided against a house falleth. Which is beautiful. That's why I said let's move on. So the other thing showing us that we're in those last days, we've got our people pulled away from the truth, first of all. And Israel will be judged first than the other nations. But when you go into the other nations, you can watch them being destroyed too. How do we know? Just turn on the news and tell me what the Republicans and the Democrats agree on. Right? And the kingdom against itself is going to be destroyed. You got half the nation saying that these ICE agents should just be able to, and it's not half. You've got people saying that these ICE agents should just be able to go into anywhere and take out anybody that's brown. And then you've got the rest of the people saying, well, that's not constitutional according to the laws that they made. So they're making their own laws, and now their own iniquities are collapsing in on them. The veil's being lifted. We can see that there's a double standard. We can see that they're out there trying to literally live. How would you say it? They're trying to make it illegal to be brown, honestly. And so you see a nation divided against itself. You see, wait, that's not right. And the other people say, no, we can't have these immigrants here. And I mean, even though they say, well, we're not bothering any so-called black people, you hear about so-called black people being wrapped up in the system and then disappearing. So they go after us in a whole different way, especially when you go into Mississippi. There's a place called, oh my gosh, what was the name? Somethingville. And they literally recruit. So these black kids think that they're going to, to be recruited for a job. And so they go down in Mississippi and they think that they're just out of school. They did certain classes and now they're going for a job. And these people in Mississippi in this town, they get these kids in this town and they hunt them. They hunt them down. And this one guy got away to tell the story of what they're doing down there. Now it's blowing up. Same place. You got in that same place, like I said, they're doing other things to us while we're watching one person that they can't figure out the mystery, like Nolan Wells. They just can't figure out what's going on. It's because the judge was on the boat, probably. That woman, her and her son were there. So whatever happened, or wherever she was at, she was on that island, that whatever happened. There was something happened and a black kid got murdered, but it was nothing, no one knows what happened. But so you see what I'm saying? They're getting us in a whole different way. And while we're watching that case, they're out hunting, not only in that town, but you can go in the news and find out that in certain counties in Mississippi, people are just dropping dead like flies. So got to be very careful out there. So there's a double standard. So this nation against itself is now collapsing. The Most High is hearing our cries, saying, hey, we need help big time out here. We need big time help. And Second Esdras. And he's starting to look at us again, because when he begins to look at us, what does it say? That there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places, storms, tempest. And I'll go into Matthew 24 and I'll show you a few other things in a minute. Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and let's go to start at verse 22. And it reads, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. So as this place is collapsing in on itself, what happens? It's starting to get torn down. And what's going to really happen is this leader is going to eventually either have a war where we don't know who's shooting at us, or we're actually going to have these other countries finally just come in and just start firing at us. And I truly think that the other countries want to do that, but everything happens according to Yahweh's plan and on his time schedule. So the spirit is on them, but for some reason they can't push the button. And that means that until the Most High allows that to happen, it won't. So we still have some more things to go through. I mean, we still have a little bit more to go through, but like I said, this place is going to collapse in on itself. So verse 22 again, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And you guys can't deny that we're watching businesses close down left and right. Whether it be through boycott, through because the Asian community decided that whatever, there was, you know what happened. They've been killing our people and treating us like garbage. We stopped shopping there. Or because of the way the government treats the economy like it's their personal bank account and they can just do anything they want, purposely making everybody in serious debt at this point. And so that's why the storehouses are found empty, because businesses are closing. They can't compete with these corporations that actually run the country. United States of America Incorporated, LLC. This place is it's like a giant mall. And if you can't afford to be at the mall, you're just loitering. You might end up in jail. That's why when people go homeless, they go missing. This is probably one of the most dangerous places on the planet to live, economically, because it seems like everything's really cool, it all looks great, but if you ain't got no money, nobody's going to be there to help you either. And in this country, they don't have free health care or any of that stuff. They'll just let you die in the street and say, well, we can't take care of him. He doesn't have insurance. What are we going to do without insurance? How are we going to get paid? We can't help this guy. That's horrible behavior. That's how we know we're at the end, though. How are you going to let people die in the street and then it's illegal to help them because they don't have insurance? And how about feeding the homeless? That's illegal. You can get arrested out here in Arizona for doing that too. And out here, it gets about 105, 110 every day. People need water. You go out giving out water, you might end up getting a ticket or arrested. Just remember that. This place is wicked. You have to buy everything yourself, and you're not allowed to have help from other people. That is scary. So let's read it again. And so this is why everything's happening, because they've systematically increased inflation. Inflation, you remember, the corporations have to keep their same profit. That's what inflation is. They got to keep that. In fact, they got to keep raising it, so you think that things are more expensive, but they control the price and everything. But they're not getting any richer any quicker unless they raise prices. That's inflation. They didn't have to inflate everything, but they wanted to, because they want to make sure that we stay way, way down here. And everybody else that is that part of that 1% is so far away that you could never see them. So they want to have that great separation. And since they did that, they're actually shooting themselves in the foot, because we can't afford to buy anything anymore. And that's how you live. That's how the rich get richer, is by consumption. We consume and we have to pay them. But if we can't afford anything, guess what? They lose their riches too. So they're about as dumb as a box of rocks. So let's read it again. So suddenly shall the storehouses appear unsown. Suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. That trumpet represents a warning. So when the warnings start going out, everybody's going to be afraid. And that's perfect. Let's keep reading. At that time shall friends fight against one another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwelt therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. And so, whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. I told you we're at the end. And if you listen to what is happening right now, that's 3 verses explaining, guess what the last words are? End of your world. Now, there's going to be people that survive. In a couple hours, everything's going to be destroyed. We keep telling you that this is like literally getting down to what they're calling a nuclear war. I don't believe that they have actually got real nuclear weapons, or Trump would have probably shot them at Iran already. Guaranteed. He would have leveled that place. Unless there's something that they want that's in Iran itself, other than the power of the country, of course. So, I mean, and I do think that they are trying to perfect different types of weapons. So they got you thinking nuclear, this, that, and the third, but they've got different types of weapons right now that they haven't shown us. Now, nuclear weapons are fucking almost 100. The atom bomb was like almost 100 years ago. You think they're still trying to use fear on stuff that they told us they had in the 60s and the 70s? Give me a break. That's almost 100. That's 50 years ago. 50, 60 years ago when they were talking about nuclear weapons. You think that they've bumped it up a little or no? You don't think they've bumped it up just a little bit? You guys got to be joking. Right? You got to be joking. But let's go over to, first, let's talk about nuclear destruction real quick, just for a second. And then I also want to, let's talk about nuclear destruction real quick. And their eyes will melt in their sockets. What chapter and verse? That's where it is, Zechariah. I keep forgetting. Every time I want to bring that verse out, I forget where it's at. Is this the King James version? Oh, there we go. Okay. This is Zechariah chapter 14. We're going to start at verse 10. You know, and I just got to get it in the, I just can't read it like this. It just messes with me too much. Zechariah chapter 14, KJ. I'm just going to have to get it in the KJV. Yeah, we're gonna have to get it in the KJV. I'm gonna have to just skip to the point. I mean, you should just, in Zechariah chapter 14, it's only 21 verses. You should probably just read the whole chapter. And I think that that would make it easier for you to understand. But what we're going to do is we're going to go right to the point. So we're going to start at verse 10. So Zechariah chapter 14, starting at verse 10. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. You know what? Let's start at 13. And it shall come to pass in that day, in these last hours that I'm talking about, that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hands of his neighbor, and on the hand shall rise up against hand of his neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen. You guys hear this? The Most High, you see what the Most High is doing? The wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And am I in the right chapter? No. Yeah, I should have started at verse 10. I started at verse 13. Salakia. Verse 10. Let me start at verse 9. Salakia. I was supposed to start at verse 10 and I just jumped into 13. So let me go ahead and start at verse 9 where I should have. And Yahweh shall be king over the earth. In that day, that's the last days that I'm talking about. Salakia about that earlier. But in that day shall there be one Yahweh, and his name one. That's it. There's not going to be all of this debate over Jesus, or you could say parquet butter, or any of that other stuff that you think that you can do at this time. You're going to be those same people where he says, I do not know you, you workers of iniquity. So verse 10, and the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and it shall be lifted up, and the inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower to the Hananel unto the king's winepress. And the men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction. But Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. So Jerusalem's going to be saved. Jerusalem. It didn't say all the other people. It didn't say that. It said Jerusalem will be saved. So that 1/3 out of Jerusalem will be safely inhabited. And I'll prove that in a minute. And it shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that fought against Jerusalem. Now, wait a second. All the people that fought against Jerusalem. And that includes you Israelites that fight against Israel. Anybody that's joined with them shall also fall. Don't forget that. So, back to what I was saying. And those who have fought against Jerusalem, their flesh shall consume away while they stand on their feet. I just told you that it was going to be in 3 hours, and anybody that survived was going to be in the kingdom. So we got to go back to that survival now, because their flesh will consume away as they stand on their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongues shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that the great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold on everyone on the hand on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the neighbor of his neighbor. And Judah shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all heathens round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. So it shows you that Jerusalem's going to be saved, and all the people that fought against Jerusalem are going to be taken out, and then in the end, we're going to take all of their abundance. And I told you I'd prove that only Jerusalem, because it tells you, and this is a go-to, we use this all the time, Isaiah 14:1 and 2. It's really just a go-to because people think they know, but what does it say? Let's read it right through. It says, for Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the stranger shall be joined with them. And they shall cleave unto the house of Jacob, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. That means slaves. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. Who took us captives and put us on ships To this day, they have shipping containers. Remember the Kendrick Lamar song? They're not like us. And he's rapping, he's standing in front of shipping containers. The people that had the strike, I forget what coast it was on, about the shipping containers, because they couldn't stand to hear the children scratching the walls trying to get out. That's why they went on strike. You guys got to understand, there's a lot more going on than what you think. So, and then I guess they had to pay them a lot more money to, or whatever they did, they stopped striking. Maybe they said they would, who knows, man. You're dealing with the devil himself. So, let me go back to it. Like I said, they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. That's why this is a go-to. So when you say that everybody's going to be saved, it says that some people will survive, but Israel is the only one that is going to be saved. When I say Israel, I'm talking about all 12 tribes. Okay? So going back over to Matthew, I wanted to prove also that in these end times, like it said in 2nd Esdras, really quick, let's go back to it, back to verse 24 in chapter 6 in verse 24. What did it say? It says, at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwelt therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. So then I showed you, yay, some things are going to happen in that time frame. Okay, we already went over that. And then you go back to verse 25, it says, whosoever remaineth after those 3 hours. Okay, we have already went over that, so let's just keep reading. Whoever remaineth after those, whosoever remaineth from all of these that I have told thee shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. Now I told you that I'm going to prove also that that we're going to confirm that friends shall fight one against another, and then we're going to show you that this isn't the only place in the Bible where this is mentioned. So let's go back over to the book of Matthew, because I already told you we got to go to Matthew 24 for sure. And we want to start, we can go to verse 2. Yahushua said unto them, see all these things, verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So he's telling you this place is going to be destroyed. Why? Because the disciples were trying to show him how beautiful the palaces and everything were. He's like, man, this whole place is getting destroyed. And he was right. And so when you jump down to verse 6, it says, and you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So who is he saying should not be troubled? That 1/3, right? Right? The 1/3, because he already told you that there's going to be certain people that escape that will see salvation. So we'll get to that. It says, verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All of these are the beginnings of sorrows. So we're in those beginnings of sorrows right now. In fact, we've been feeling it for a while now. And verse 9, they shall be delivered up afflicted, and they shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So as soon as we start teaching Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, they start telling you, nah, man, that's not real. That's not the right name. You can use any name but that name. I'll tell you that. We've already gone through that though, right? You can use any name but that name. You can even say parquet butter. But when you start saying Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, the name suddenly hasn't been established. In other words, don't use that one. Use anything but that. So going back to it. And then many be And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Didn't it just say that neighbor will fight against neighbor in 2nd Esdras? Well, let's keep going. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And you can go back to Titus 1:11. They'll say things which they're not supposed to and destroy whole houses for dirty money. And then verse 12. Because sin shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. We're going to skip over 13, and we're going to go to verse 24. For there shall arise false Christ and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they would deceive the very elect. These things are happening right now. These are the end time things. Now let's go back to verse 13, though, because what does verse 13 say? Verse 13 says, but he that endure until the end, the same shall be saved. Right? He that endure until the end, the same shall be saved. I don't know. There was one other thing. Let's jump down a little bit further. We want to just get this too, because this is also part of these last days. So when you jump down to verse 37, but as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And what were they doing during the time of Noah? Do you know Noah was building that ark for 120 years? On top of that being 120 years, he was preaching the gospel. He was blowing the trumpet. He was blowing the horn. He was giving the warning to the people, and they never listened. So as in the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of Yahushua be. That's the Son of Man. And so what is he saying? He's saying they're going to be doing the exact same thing as the same. So what was Noah doing? He was preaching the word, and he was physically building an ark to get out of there, and nobody listened. So when you go to verse 38, let's see what it says. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking. Yeah, we're going out doing that, marrying and giving in marriage. Yep, doing all that until the day that Noah entered into the ark. So it's not saying don't eat, drink, and have celebrations. It's saying have your mind mentally in the right place and be following the laws to the best of your ability according to your knowledge. So, because everybody was eating and drinking, then what happened when Noah entered the ark? Because you're out there worried more about life in this society that wasn't built for us. This is not our rest. So you're out worrying about that more. Now, there's a time and a place for everything. That's what I'm trying to say. So right now, the time is to come back to the truth. That's the time and place we're in right now. We need to come back. We have to. It's imperative that we start following the instructions, or we're going to be left behind. So if now Noah's about to enter the ark, what could possibly happen? Let me remind you of something during the time of Noah. It had never rained from the sky before. So if he said it's going to rain from the sky, these people think he's crazy and they're laughing at him. So, verse 39, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of Yahushua be. And what is Yahushua going to tell you? I do not know you. I know you not. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Right? So when Yahushua returns, you are going to be taken away. And you're not going to even know that you're going to be taken out until he gets here. So let's move on. Let's jump over to, let's stay in the book of Matthew though. Let's go to chapter 12. I've got another precept I think I want to bring out bringing us back over into the main lesson. Let's go to Matthew 12 and it just brings us back to where we were at. Every kingdom, this is Matthew 12 and 25, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Now, I just showed you in Matthew 24 that kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation. In 2nd Esdras, what was it saying? That people are going to start fighting against each other. What's Matthew chapter 12 telling you? This is Yahushua speaking, actually, when he says it. It says, and Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And you know what? We've been brought to desolation. They have painted a picture to pin us against each other since the beginning of pretty much the time that they've had their hands on us. So the earth was given into the hands of the wicked. They covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Well, they've used that, and that's Job 9 and 24. If they use that wickedness against us, let me make sure we're still good. Okay. So just want to make sure that the camera's still on. So like I said, let me keep reading real quick. A nation divided against itself shall not stand. So they take us and pin us against each other, but now they're pinned against each other according to their own lies. So they've dug their own ditch. Like it says, he's going to dig a ditch and then fall in. He's going to put out a trap and he's going to be caught up in it. So that's happening to them right now. You can just turn on the news and watch. And their lies, the veil is being lifted. We could see all your shame. We could see your secret parts. We could see all your lies. So verse 26, if Satan cast out Satan and is divided against himself, how shall then his kingdom stand? So how is we know who the devil is? That's our government right now. That's the great red dragon, right? So that whore that sits on the dragon, we're our government is a thorn in the side of earth. It's like every nation, and that is Satan casting out Satan because they keep fighting against each other, but it's slowly destroying the whole their whole empire. Like a good example, Trump destroying part of the White House garden so he can build a ballroom, yet they can't get the ballroom built. And it's probably something way different. Billions of dollars to build a structure that cost a couple $100,000 to build. Maybe, I wouldn't even want to say $1 million because that's just way too much for such a small structure. So what are they really doing is what the question is. How do they need that much money? And so they keep fighting and slowly little pieces of, you can see their empire and their infrastructure slowly being destroyed. And on top of that, we can see what's going on. That all of the whole cabinet's doing insider trading. How did Trump become a billionaire overnight when the president doesn't make that much money in 5 presidents to become a billionaire? So and it's everybody, insider trading, that what do they call it, lobbying, paying, so the corporations come in and they give them a bunch of money and then they pass laws against us. That's why we have high gas prices. That's why we have all these chemicals in our food. Why? Because Big Pharma wants us to be sick. Why do you think they got rid of all the bells, frequency, and vibration? Those bells did more. They certain vibrations can like kill the cancer cells and all of in germs in general. Boom, cavities, all that stuff. It destroys it through and it's hard to understand. But these little things, and it says, if the trumpet is blown, are not the people scared? And if there is evil in a city, isn't it not I that hath done it? So the Most High destroyed all that stuff so he could bring forth the end. But you can look up the Great Bell Melting yourself. They can't even replicate those bells. You know that? They destroyed them all, but they can't remake them. And guess who did that? Rockefeller Rothschild, because they knew about that frequency. And they said, how is anybody going to buy petroleum-based pressed pills if they're not sick? And then they went on this whole thing that they needed the bells for gun shells for World War, I forget which, World War I or II. But the copper wasn't really that great for what they were doing, so they could have used other stuff. And they didn't. They said it was the bells, but and you know what, we're gonna get off of that. But what they did is they compromised us. And so you got these guys lobbying, you got all of these guys getting paid to destroy us, and now we're rising back up. So now you got society versus government. You got some of the government workers that are going against the other government workers, and everybody's fighting against everybody. There's one passage out of the book of Enoch that there's two things in the book of Enoch that always stuck to me. That Enoch was walking with the angel, and he's looking around because he doesn't know how to describe what he's seeing. So he calls everybody angels. And he's looking and he goes, and he's watching us in the future. And he's seeing the end. And he's looking around and goes, all of the angels, they work together, but they hate each other. And it always stuck to me about that. I was like, wow, that's accurate. Because when you go to any aspect of life, we all sit here and have to work together, but we've been pinned against each other. Blacks and Mexicans, blacks and Asians, everybody pinned against black people. But somehow Africans aren't black, or neither are Puerto Ricans, but they still have dark skin. And then you got, it's just crazy how mixed up they have us. But Israel's a speckled bird. You guys know what that means? We're being pinned against each other as a speckled bird because we'll look like the other nations, because we've been mingled among the other nations. So pretty much they have us fighting against each other, in other words. And we're starting to wake up. Some people are. And we're fighting against the government now. And also, the government's fighting against itself. We can't really do anything as Israelites. It says the weapons of our warfare are spiritual, not carnal. So all we can do is, the best thing that an Israelite can do is prayer and fasting. And while this kingdom is divided against itself, that's how we're going to escape. Believe it or not, that is your escape. Prayer and fasting, following the instructions to the best of your ability. It says in Romans 16 and 17, I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions, contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. So avoid a lot of this shit, and you'll find yourself not part of it. But Satan is coming against himself. That's why when you have when it's time to vote, they put up all the commercials. And they show you, like, they just do smear campaigns against each other the whole way through. It's like, damn, neither one of these people are good. They both have problems. And we're supposed to vote for them? And then it turns out that they're both lobbying for all these big corporations, taking us back in this nasty, dirty toilet that just keeps swirling in circles. And soon, whoosh, it's all going to be flushed. It's all going to be flushed right through. And then we're going to have the Israelites that escape and receive salvation, Matthew 24 and 13. If you endure, he that endure until the end, the same shall be saved. And in 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and 24, it's saying the same thing. The ones that escape shall receive salvation. So this all works together. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but yeah, that's why they don't want you. That's why they took the Bible apart too. And then what happens? They argue about that now too. They can't not argue. They can't agree on anything, and that is what did Yahweh do to the Pharaoh? He hardened Pharaoh's heart so he could show his power. So in the end, we're like, wow, he did all this. He said he was going to do this thousands of years ago, and now it's happening. We're living in those days. We are living those days. Let's go to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 3. We are living in those days, and that's beautiful. 2 Corinthians chapter 3. And we're going to go down to the point. It's in verse... the point's in 14, but I'm going to start at verse 12, because this is I'm going to blow the horn again. This is like whenever the Bible talks about blowing the horn, it's talking about giving the warning. So while the warning is being given out, like I said, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, starting at verse 12. Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech, which cuts up speaking in tongue according to Christians, because also when you read down speaking in tongues, it says that you have to interpret what you're saying so we can all rejoice in the word. So speak in great plainness of speech. Try to make it as easy as possible to understand, and not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Israel could not steadfastly look to the end of that which is abolished, but their minds were blinded. And for until this day remaineth the same veil, untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Christ. So I'm going to have to kill two birds with one stone with that, because Christians will literally say that, see, the veil's been lifted, the Old Testament was taken away. It's not saying that. It's saying that you understand the Old Testament. The Most High explained it to you and showed it to you. The reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Christ. So, but even unto this day, when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. You guys don't, your minds are covered. You have two types of people in this world right now. You got ones that say that the Old Testament is done away with. And then you got Christians that actually, I don't know what religion they are, but they only read the Old Testament. Oh yeah, the Jewish people, but also in our people, that they don't believe the New Testament at all. And so Christians are going to tell you the Old Testament being done away with means that the laws are done away with. That is not what it's saying. It's saying that you should understand the veil of the Old Testament. You got to understand. A veil being covered means you can't see clearly. It means that there's a haze over. You can't really. So when that veil's been lifted, you understand what's going on. And so you know that, like when you go into Isaiah 14:1 and 2, that we're going to take them captives whose captives they were. We know that there's consequences for not following instructions. We know that there's a dietary plan. So that veil being lifted, and Yahushua should take that Hellenized spirit off of your heart. But let's keep reading. Because it says their minds were blinded, for unto this day remaineth the same veil untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament. When we read the Bible, you guys believe that doesn't exist anymore. So you've actually changed it. You've changed it to it doesn't, oh yeah, that's all done away with. So let's jump around some more. Let's go to John chapter 8. So you guys are in this last days right now, and you guys are still on some, I'm not going to accept this book for what it really is. And so the Most High keeps you in that mind state, because honestly, if he were to save you, then you would repent, and he doesn't want that, or he would let you see the truth. And it's funny, I'm going to get that really quick because he would let you see the truth if he wanted to. If they understand, I shall have to let them repent. What chapter and verse? How about this? I did not know you, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Matthew chapter 7. Yeah, I always get that. I always miss that. Let me see if that's where it's at, though. That's not. Nope. That's not what it is. I was looking for something very specific. This is where he's literally going to tell you, and I'll confess I never knew you, depart me from me, workers of iniquity, but that's not what I was talking about. I mean, it is part of what I was talking about, but if I can think of where the actual verse is. Let me try again. If I let them understand, they will repent and I will have to save them. What chapter and verse? Why am I having such a hard time with this? Hold on, I'm finding this. Salakia. It's John 12 and 40 is what I was looking for because, let's go to it now. Jeez. It's John 12 and 40. Stop. So let's go back to what I was saying in John 8 and 32 real quick. I'm sorry, not John 8 and 32. You shall know the truth and truth shall make you free. 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 3. 14. But their minds were blinded, for unto this day remaineth this same veil untaken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which the veil is done away in Christ. So I wanted to get the precept to that, and it took me a minute, but I found it. So that veil that's over their eyes is for a reason. Remember, that veil over their eyes is for a reason. Will you? So let's go to John 12 and I'm gonna start at 38, John 12 and 38. That the saying of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spake, Lord, who hath believed our report? And to whom hath the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Therefore, they could not believe, because that Elias said again. Isaiah said again, he hath blinded their eyes and hardened their heart. And your heart represents your mind. So he made you hard-headed, that they should not see with their eyes, nor understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them. So the reason why you have that veil over your eyes unto this day, that you can't understand that we're in the last hour, is because the Most High himself hath done it. Remember that if the trumpet is born, aren't the people scared? And if there's evil in the world, isn't it not Yahweh that have done it? He's hardening your heart on purpose, just like how he hardened the Pharaoh's heart, so he could fulfill the prophecies correctly. This is part of it. So, sorry. And I'm gonna go ahead and leave off there. Let's move on. And I already told you, John 8 and 32, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. But unless he's not gonna let you see the truth, I'll tell you that. He hardened your heart. So there's 2/3 of you out there that have a hardened heart at this point. In other words, he blocked you from being able to accept what the reality of these scriptures are. He literally blocked you out. And it tells you, let's get that too. 2/3 must therein die, but 1/3 shall be saved. Let's get that. And you know what? Zechariah 13 and 8. It says, the New Living Translation, Zechariah 13 and 8. 2/3 of the people in the land will be cut off and die, says Yahweh, but 1/3 will be left in the land. And it's only talking about Israel. And this is only talking about the Israelites. That's it. So just keep that in mind. It's not talking about the other nations, and 1/3 of the other nations are going to survive. It says, see, in the King James Version, it says, but 1/3 shall be left therein. And Second Ezra, chapter 6 and 24, it says, they that escaped shall receive Yahweh's salvation. In Matthew 24 and 13, it says, he that endure until the end. So how do you endure something? You have to follow the instructions all the way through. That's how you endure. That's why it tells you in Sirach 2 and 1, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Because you got to endure all the trials, the tribulations, the temptations, everything. You got to accept the whole book, the good, the bad, the ugly, the curses, and the blessings. And at the end, if you can endure all that, then you shall be saved. So 1/3, let me read it one more time, Zechariah 13:8. And it shall come to pass that in the land, saith Yahweh, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the 1/3 shall be left therein. Okay? So let's jump around some more. Let's go to the book of Psalm. Let's go to the book of Psalm, chapter Psalm chapter 119. And we're going to go down to the point. It's in verse we're going to go to verse 18. And it says, open mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. You know what it says about the law? It says to keep the law with joyfulness and gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. The law is not grievous. In other words, this law is not hard. It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Everything about our law keeps us living forever. You'll live a lot of years following Yahweh's law to the T. I know that, but that makes you a really wise man on how to use these laws in the last days. Just keep that in mind. So let's go to verse. Let's go to verse 18 again. Open thou mine eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. Verse 19, I am a stranger in the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. Remember, haven't you ever heard that this is not our rest? That we're not part of this. So if you are not joined with the society today, how it runs, you have to live this Hellenized society, but you also can still keep the laws to the best of your ability, according to your knowledge, applying what you learned to your life. So if you're still doing that, then he's going to open your eyes, and it does show. It proves that you're a stranger here, because you're trying to not be a part of just the mainstream public, the mainstream idea, the mainstream lie that everybody's going with. And in these last days, it's really important. Remember, if any wise possible, they'd fool the very elect. So you got to keep your eyes open. Everything is temptation these days. Let's go to the book of Revelation. Everything these days is temptation. What does the book of Revelation say? Chapter 2. In fact, I want to keep reading. Let's stay in chapter 119 for a second. Let me keep reading. Open thou mine eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of the law. Verse 19, I am a stranger in the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. Verse 20, my soul breaketh for the longing that it hath unto thy judgments at all times. Verse 21, thou hast rebuked the proud that are cursed, which do err from thy commandments. So those are our people. That's now what I told you, 2/3 must err and die, but only 1/3 shall be saved. Okay? And I'm not going to go into Revelations, because we already know who the wicked is. They're the ones that are the synagogue of Satan. And who has a synagogue? What's the only people that you know with a synagogue? So I already got Matthew chapter 24. I already read 6 through 8. That's wars and rumors of wars. So let's go back over to, let's go to Revelation chapter 18. And we're going to start from we're going to start from the top. Revelation chapter 18, because I keep telling you, We're in we're in the last hour. According to, for us, one day for Yahweh is 1,000 years for us. And I was doing the math on, like, just for fun, on if one day is 1,000 years for us, how much is 1 hour? And it was something like 44 or 45 something years for an hour. I was like, oh, well, that's crazy. Not saying that anything, I was just going into it. But you see, but for us, we can see that, well, these things still need to happen. There's some time left. But for Yahweh, these are the last seconds. These are last seconds. He's literally starting to look at us again because we're in those last seconds. So let's go back to it. So, and after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the holy, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. That what that's saying is, like, all the wicked, evil people come here. Where's Babylon? We're called secret Babylon, aren't we? Spiritual Sodom in Egypt. This secret Babylon, and when you look who runs this joint, come on, people. The Pedialites run the country, and they're funded by corporations who's funded by this other secret government that funds both sides of every war. They're all working together. That's that, and we're here. This place is the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit. We got murderers, rapists, you name it, racist kids in Mississippi just getting lynched. People in Mississippi hiring kids as interns, and then hunting, well, black kids, so-called black kids. They're doing that. Look it up. They ain't making up nothing. This is the place of the unclean spirit. This is the habitation of devils. And what does devil mean? The false accuser, the liar, the scoundrel, the swindler. The liar, false accuser actually is what the definition is. And so, devil, we know that this is definitely that place. Verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through her abundance of her delicacies. So now, let's prove that particular prophecy it's always being fulfilled, but it was publicly fulfilled in our faces when they had the World Cup here. All of these people from other countries were drunk from the wine of the wrath of her fornications. And you watch people get rich. You watched all the leaders work together to bring this to fruition. And you watch the people from other countries come here to this country and literally stockpile anything they could get because they never seen it like this before. They never had it so great. And we're looking at them going, you know, all that stuff you're grabbing is poisonous. But they don't care. They're like, oh, I never want to leave America. It's so great. I never knew. So they were all drunk from that. They were all drunk from the sins that we have to endure on a daily basis. Let me make sure this is still running. We're doing it. All that's coming to an end. Let me prove it. So verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin, that you receive not of her plagues. So remember, I told you, he that endure, how do you endure? By coming back to the law to the best of your ability according to your knowledge. That's how you be not partakers. By not being a part of this society, Remember I said that? I keep saying all that stuff. You can't be part of today's society. You have, but you are Hellenized, so you do, to a certain point, have to live here, of course, and follow their rules, but you don't have to be a partaker. You don't have to be a partaker of her sins. Verse 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities. I just told you we're in the last second. If he's remembering us again, that means he's looking at us again. He's starting to look down here. Let's keep reading. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. So all the things that they have done to destroy not only earth, but the Israelites first and foremost, and the laws we live by, double unto you guys, double to all the things you've done to us. So remember, you guys literally hunt us down to this day in Mississippi. You lynch our children in Mississippi, and then there's no harm, no foul. Find a kid hung right next to the sheriff's station. Well, we don't know. Well, no harm, no foul. It was a suicide. We don't hang ourselves. We don't. Most black people don't kill themselves. Why? Because we've already been through so much oppression. All we're trying to do is get to at least one good day. So that's kind of weird. So anyway, I'm gonna keep reading, and then we're gonna let it go. We're gonna shut this. We're gonna read a couple more verses, but we're going to shut this down. We're gonna go through this a little bit more, and then we're gonna shut this down. So going to let's go back to verse 6 again. Read right through it. Reward her as she has rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously on our backs. Remember, we built this place. We built this place through slavery, and we're still slaves to this day, still building. If you go to the prisons, they're getting 25 cents an hour. Oh, well, it's not slavery because we're paying them. In a society where it takes like $50 an hour to live in a normal, basic life. 25 cents to $1 an hour. Give me a break. So that's why it says reward her double. Just remember that. So she has lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen. I sit a whore. The word queen means whore. I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. So they think that their kingdom shall last forever, but they shall build and I will throw down. Remember that. Verse 8, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is the Yahweh who judgeth her. And I already showed you that she was going to get burned with fire earlier when their holes, when their eyes melt in their sockets. But let me get a little more on that. Let's get another precept. Why not? Let's go to, and I love this precept. That's why I'm going to bring it out, because it said that they're going to be burnt with fire. So we've got to prove that, because the veil's been lifted on us in the reading of the Old Testament. So that veil's been lifted, so we can precept that now. So let's go ahead and get that. And it says, Isaiah, that's right, 66, 15 and 16. Don't forget about that fire that he's going to hit us with. And it says, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. Give unto her double. For both, in verse 16, for by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh. That's you, all of us, because remember, we have to escape too, so we have to prove ourselves by enduring until the end that we are part of that 1/3. And I'm hoping too that I make it. So, and by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. Now, don't get me wrong, because we are going to be taken out of this. It says that the main destruction, when that main destruction hits, we're already being hit by the sword and the fire right now. We're watching it start to happen. We've always been judged. So that's just, for us, it's a normal day. But seeing our enemies get judged, now that's something new. That's something new. So we know that the Most High is going to come with fire, and by fire, he's going to plead with all flesh. And we know that there's 2/3 that are going to be joined with our enemy. So we see all this stuff coming to pass right now. So now we go back over to Revelation chapter 18, and it says that going back to verse 8, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is Yahweh with her judgment. Now I told you that we were going to make it out of that, and I told you that we are going to have to endure until a certain point. But when that main destruction hits, at that same time, we're going to be removed. So let's go to Revelation chapter 11 and verse 12, and it says, and they heard a great voice from heaven, saying unto them, come up hither, and they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So not only are they going to be right at the point of getting destruction, but they're also going to watch us rise up into the kingdom, so we don't have to endure anymore. So that's why, that's the end. Right there, that's the end right there. That's Matthew 24 and 13. He that endure until the end, the same shall be saved. At that point, the part where you're saved, you're going to, according to Scripture, ascend in front of your enemies into the ascend into heaven in a cloud. Okay, so the enemies are actually going to have to watch that happen after we endure until the end. So they'll know, oh, this is the for real last end. There is no more turning back. There's no more repenting. Let's go to Psalm 137. And Psalm 137, we're going to read the whole chapter, and then we're going to break it down. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yes, we wept when we remembered Zion. Who are we? We're the daughters of Zion. We're the daughters. For we hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. In other words, we stopped. There's no more joy. There's no more glory when we think about where we're from. For there they that carried us away captive required a song of us. And they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. And that mirth is entertainment, just to let you know. And they wanted us to sing these songs of Zion. I'm going to explain what these songs are in a minute. Verse 4, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? So how can we, and I'm going to break down what that means though, because how are we going to sing and be joyful? And it just said that that we were taken captives. We were carried away captives. And I showed you in Isaiah 14:2, we were going to take them captives, whose captives they were. They're going to take them captives, whose captives they were. We were carried away captives, and they required entertainment and music out of us. They wanted to be entertained by this song. But how are we supposed to be able to sing this joyful song in captivity in a strange land? Verse 5. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy, remember, O Yahweh, the children of Edom. in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. Woo! So who are we going to be going after? The people that said, and raise it can mean two things. It means destroy it for sure. Destroy it to the foundation thereof, or burn it to the foundation thereof, which means the same as destroy. Okay? So remember remember Edom, and remember that the Most High chose Israel. I yet choose Israel, and I will put them in their own land. Right? I will yet choose Israel. All other nations are less than spittle. We'll get that right now. So, remember, O Yahweh, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to the foundations thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee, as thou hast served us. Double unto them. Remember that? Pay them double. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little one against the stone. Happy is he going to be to take your little ones and dash them, and dasheth thy little ones against the stone. See, double unto them what they did to us. Isn't that what they did to us? And you know, people get really mad when they hear this, but they don't want to acknowledge how we were gator bait and how they did so many things to us that it would be a whole nother half hour of all of the atrocities that have been done to us. But going back to the song, let's get this song real quick. So it says that they required a song, and they required, they wasted us. They required of us mirth, sing us one of the songs of Zion. So I told you I wanted to break that down at the end, because after all this goes down, we will be singing this song again. I showed you in Revelation 11 and 12 that we're going to ascend in front of our enemies in that last hour. And it does say that we got to endure until the end, so that we know is the end, but we're going to have to endure until that point. So what does this song represent? The song that he's talking about, that they want us to sing, is because they want to make fun of us. The song actually glorifies us being in victory, having a victory. So how can we be in a strange land as captives? And they're all, ha ha ha, sing the song now. How you're going to be above all nations. Ha 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 ha. Do you get it? So what does the song represent? It glorifies Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai's presence in the city of Jerusalem, and the enthronement song of Yahweh Shai's kingship over the whole world. So what does this song represent? Us back in rulership, but as captives they want us to sing that song. So pretty soon, as you can tell, like I said, we're coming into that last hour, those last 3 hours, and we're down to that. The Most High is starting to look at us again, because there's going to be a certain point where we've endured enough. And when that happens, it's the end. And we will ascend back to the kingdom, because he that endure until the end, the same shall be saved. Oh, when I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I will be saved too. I'm already saved. It doesn't say that. And when you go with him, when you go to him and say that, he's going to say, I did not know you, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. You're not saved. The only people that are going to be saved are the people that endure, and I told you earlier, that's coming back to the truth, following the instructions to the best of your ability according to your knowledge. Not telling people the Old Testament's done away with. That's why the veil was lifted, so we don't have to. No. If it says to be Christ-like, did Christ break any laws? No. Was he a lamb without blemish? In other words, he had no sin? And it tells you to be that way? Okay. But with that being said, if you got eyes to see and ears to hear, remember this. You're running out of time. You can see it in the news. You can see it in the way that people are acting. You can see how people that don't even follow Scripture are even feeling this spiritual this spiritual awakening. So if you got eyes to see it, ears to hear, like I said, Revelation 20:12. Behold, I come quickly, my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. Watch out. Watch out. You might already be blinded. He might be blinding you because he doesn't want to save you. And that means that you'll be out here doing that comment board groupie shit. You can find out who you really are just by doing that. But if you're going against the 100% truth, you're doomed. And with that being said, shalom.